Yo, what's up guys? It's the new sensation, Bigger Notation here, and today I'm going to be bringing you the next round of the Rising Phoenix Odyssey tournament, in which I played King Cold against an Agents of Destruction deck. Before we get into the gameplay, I just want to say a couple of things. First off, obviously I have not uploaded in almost a month, I think, and I want to apologise for that. I've really wanted to keep going with the channel. It's not like I've been burnt out or anything, I just haven't had the free time. I've just finished school, so I've got like job stuff to sort out. I have to get a job and suddenly I don't have as much free time as I used to, so I'm still trying to figure out balancing that with creating content and doing other stuff that I enjoy in my free time. But hopefully I can give you guys some videos just whenever I have enough time. I'm hoping to be able to balance that a lot easier in the future. And also, the last round of the Rising Phoenix Odyssey, the one before this one, I've played that one out as well, but there was a problem with some of the recording. It didn't end up coming out very well, so I wasn't able to give you guys the gameplay for the last round, which I'm sorry about again. But yeah, something happened weirdly with the recording stuff. But to give you guys the rundown, I was playing against the Yup DBS CG Things channel, I think they're called. But shout out to them, of course, as with all my opponents. I want to shout out their channel if I can. And I was playing my aggro Syn list, or not my aggro Syn list, it was a list that one of my mates came up with, Jamie, over on the Scrub Games channel. So if you're interested in that list, I'll have a link in the description to that. But I was playing aggro Syn and my opponent was playing Soul Striker, and I managed to take the match 2-1. And then for this gameplay, I'm playing King Cold versus AOD, and for those of you who are in Europe currently, you'll probably know that the European Finals is coming up next weekend as the time of recording this. And so I've been spending a lot of my free time preparing for that, which is again why I haven't been uploading so many videos, because I've been wanting to get as much testing in as I can. And I've come to the conclusion that King Cold is probably going to be the deck that I run, which might seem a little bit obscure to people who know me, because I have never touched King Cold until this week. I've just never played the deck, I've never been that interested in it. I started building it when the set that it came in, I think it was set 13 first came out, but I just never ended up finishing it or testing it out. But this is going to be the list that I take to finals probably. And so I wanted to get some testing in, and I hadn't played King Cold in the Rising Phoenix tournament, so I figured this was a perfect chance for me to do so. And then finally, I do have a cold at this time of recording, so you might hear me sniffling a little bit throughout the video, but I'll try and keep that as quiet as I can. So we'll just get straight into the gameplay. And there's a lot of things to think about during this matchup. I found it was a very, very interesting matchup because, and honestly, it was one of my favorite matchups because King Cold as a control deck, I really enjoy playing control decks like King Cold, where they have a lot of interaction during your opponent's turn, and I specifically like playing control decks such as King Cold against aggro decks, and obviously Agents of Destruction is a very aggressive deck. But I also know a lot about how the Agents deck runs because I've played it a lot myself. So I was able to use some of that to my advantage, and it really helped me throughout the games, which I will explain through in a little bit as we get into the gameplay. So here I'm just doing my standard thing of play a field card turn 1. I didn't see New Ruler, which was a bit of a shame, but Terrified Realization is fine because it allows for me to still gain some draw power. I'm still drawing cards out of my deck. It's better than seeing Unstoppable Invasion, I think it is. So it's still not a bad field card. And so I just take the life off my leader, take the life off the field card, and draw 2 cards. Against an aggro deck like Gogeta Zeno, which is like very hard aggression looking to kill you turn 3 most games, I would probably not take the life, and also maybe against a Jiren, although Jiren is a bit of a weird matchup. I haven't properly tested that one yet. But against Agents of Destruction, because I know they're not going to pressure me enough to kill me by turn 3, I can safely take the life, and if I can awaken by turn 2, which I will probably be able to because they'll attack my leader here, then it will give me a lot of interaction during their turn 2 because I'll have Cooler counterplay live, I'll have Freezer counterplay live, I can have Royal Supremacy up, I can have all these different things that will suddenly be able to shut down their turn 2. And because Agents of Destruction has a very standard turn 1 of just play Babidi, potentially play the extra card if they have it, and then pass, and then turn 2 they'll sometimes do things, but a lot of the time they'll have to hold energy open for Garlic Jr. negate and for Android 13 negate. Then I kind of know what's going to happen going into those turns, and unless they have a crazy hand with like 4 Senzu Beans, they're really not going to be able to do all that much to me, and especially with all the interaction that I'll have going into their turn 2. Something that's really important to note about AOD, or a couple of things when playing against the deck. First of all, the backside of the leader does not draw any cards, so as soon as you get them awakened, and they'll awaken very quickly because if they have enough extra cards they'll be taking 2 life a turn, and that'll awaken them either turn 2 or turn 3. And so you have to really understand that the deck cannot go into the long game. It just isn't built for that because it doesn't have the draw power. It can free play a lot of stuff, especially once it's awakened, but once you survive, generally that awakened turn is where they'll put on the most pressure. Then you're generally in the clear, and if you're playing a control deck, you'll be able to outlast them very easily. So here I'm doing very standard stuff. I didn't see my Unison, but I managed to top deck the Berry Blue off of the Anticipated Onslaught draw, and grab my Unison. Luckily, I did have a Paragus to sacrifice to play from hand with the Anticipated Onslaught anyway, but I managed to top deck the Berry Blue, search my Unison. It's not an optimal turn 2 because optimal turn 2 would have seen me play the Unison before awakening, but it's still fine. Like, at least I have the Unison. So a couple of another thing to note about AOD is that oftentimes their interaction during the opponent's turn is what gives them so much advantage and what makes them seem so threatening in the early game. So the Android 13 counterplay and the Garlic Jr. counterattack are the 2 main cards to look out for. And so if you can play around those accordingly, because oftentimes they'll leave energy open to play those cards during your turn, and those are their main defensive cards, but they're also their main ways to build a board. Because Garlic Jr. spits 2 units out onto the board for 1 energy, which is insanely strong. And so if you combine all of that, basically the game plan for this is to, if they leave energy open, I have to be playing around those 2 cards as well as I can, and that makes cards like the King Cold Supreme Ruler negate in my hand, as well as Berry Blue and Paragus, all very useless cards because they'll get counterplayed by the Android 13. And then the cooler counterplay, if I use it on his turn, will also get counterplayed, but I'll still get my counterplay effect, so it's kind of okay. And because I'll be using it during his turn, it means that I can use it to bait him to tap down energy during his turn so that he doesn't have as many proactive plays. But you'll see throughout this game I'm charging a lot of Berry Blues and Paraguses and King Cold negates, because on this turn where I've just dropped both of them is the only real chance that I'm going to have to actually play either of them during this entire game. Because for the rest of the game he'll make sure to leave energy open during my turn, which means that he can counterplay them, and it will give him so much value if he resolves Android 13 consistently enough that I just can't risk playing these 1-drops. And here you can see he's searched a Garlic Jr. negate already. And so I want to be playing around those as much as I can. And then when it comes to the later stages of the game, turns 3 to 5 are the later stages for Androids, Agents of Destruction, I'd argue. That's turn 3 is probably one of its stronger turns, and then turn 4 and 5 is where it starts to teeter off. So during those turns, I want to be applying as much pressure as I can, and I want to stall his awaken for as long as I can as well. Obviously, this time he's got it down. On turn 2, he's able to awaken, so that's pretty scary. But I want to be stalling his awaken for as long as I can, and then if I can stall his awaken long enough, I want to take him down lower than 4 life before he can awaken. And I want to basically put him on a 2-turn clock. So I want to get all of his Garlic Jr. negates out of his hand during 1 turn, and then either back that up with like a Kibito Kai Secret Rare, which you can see I have in my hand for this game, or just a bunch of negates like Royal Supremacies to make sure I can deal with his oncoming board. And then during the turn after that, when he's used all of his negates, I can go in and pressure him with the 5-drop Golden Freezer and look for a kill. So that was very poorly explained. It was kind of scattered the way I explained that, but I hope that makes sense. Basically, we're looking for a 2-turn clock. We just hold off all of his aggression. King Cold is very good at dealing with aggro decks. They can just negate constantly. And then put him on a 2-turn clock when around turn 4 rolls around. We want to start hitting him back and looking to try and kill him over the course of 2 turns. But it kind of depends on how many Garlic Jr. negates he has. So a problem for King Cold is obviously this Lord Slug. King Cold is running a lot of counterplays, such as the Freezer Charismatic Villain, and Milas is also running the cooler counterplay as well. I think that card is very underrated, and so I've been running it in my list. And this Lord Slug is going to force me to pitch 2 cards every time I activate a counterplay, so it's a little bit scary, but luckily I have Royal Supremacies to deal with it. Also, another thing to note, I wanted to drop this Unison this turn. I was considering just using Berry Blue's effect to gain some advantage because I hadn't used my backside leader auto to draw a card, and it would have effectively been a draw rate for 1 energy, and it would have left an energy open for my King Cold negate. But I figured that wasn't worth it because, as I mentioned before, the King Cold negate is kind of useless in this matchup because he'll just Android 13 it, and then I don't get the auto. I still get the negate, but the auto is what I'm really looking for. And he'll rip a card out my hand and develop another body for 1 energy. So I opted to go for the Unison so that I could get Freeze alive, even though I didn't have another field card in hand at the time, so I wouldn't get my leader backside draw. I just figured that it was the correct play here, because I didn't think that he'd be able to pressure my Unison enough to kill it, especially when he only had Babidi on the board going into his turn 2. And so I knew that he'd have to play at least 1 battle card before he could start pressuring my Unison, and that meant that I would have the chance to use Freezer to respond to it. And I also had Royal Supremacies to stop him hitting my Unison if it came to that. So here I used the Royal Supremacy, negating the Android 13 attack and killing off the Lord Slug. So he made a slight misplay in playing the Lord Slug before the Android 13, or swinging with them in that way. If he was planning to swing with the Lord Slug, he should have swung with the Lord Slug and then played the Android 13, because that Royal Supremacy gave me a lot of value. Here, going into his turn, or going into my turn, sorry, you can see, I'm going to pause the video here actually, because this is really important to note. So you can see he's got 2 energy open. I do have a Berry Blue in hand. I don't want to play it because he'll Android 13 it. I tentatively swung my Unison to his battle card because I figured if he has Garlic Juniors in hand, he'll probably want to negate my leader swing because it can boost itself to 25k, and the activate battle gives me a lot of value when I kill the field cards. So I swung with the Unison first on the Turles to either make him combo out or let the Turles die. He let the Turles die because I assumed he'd want to hold 1 energy for an Android 13 and 1 energy to negate my leader swing. And then I ended up just passing turn. I don't want to swing with leader because it will give him a Garlic Jr., which gives him 2 bodies on the board, and it will give him a Turles or a Lord Slug super combo from the deck, which are 2 very threatening cards for AOD. A minor misplay that I did make is I completely forgot that I had Paragus the Sacrifice on board, so I could have easily just Paragus the Sacrificed off a New Ruler, drawn a card off Paragus the Sacrifice, drawn a card off New Ruler, discarded a card, and then I could have tapped 1 energy for Berry Blue to revive the New Ruler and draw a bunch more. So I completely forgot about that. I missed that completely. I missed out on like a draw 3 there, which would have been really helpful. And the 1 energy doesn't matter that much because, as you can see in my hand, I was holding 2 energy for the Kibito Kai Secret Rare, but holding the 3rd energy doesn't do anything for my hand because I don't have a cooler counterplay. And all it would give me access to is the King Cold negate, and the King Cold negate, as I've mentioned before in this video, is very useless in this matchup because he'll just Android 13 it. It gives him way too much value. So definitely a misplay there on my part. I should have noticed that I could do all of that crazy stuff and just draw 3 for free. But I'm still learning the deck, and it didn't end up mattering a huge amount, I don't think. So here he's charging, and he's got 2 blue energy and a green energy. So important thing to note is when you're playing against AOD, oftentimes you can tell what they're looking to do with the color energy that they have. So 2 blue energy signifies he's probably got some beans in hand that he's going to be using, and the green energy signifies that he might be running the Lord Slug AOD with some of the yellow Lord Slug's army stuff from the Draft Box 3. So here he swings with leader, and I think this was another misplay on his part. He should have swung with the Android 13 first, because swinging with leader gives me huge Royal Supremacy value. I was actually a little bit worried about the Android 13, because that is one way that the Agents of Destruction deck can start to gain value in the later stages of the game, and he could have killed off my Berry Blue and taken cards out of my hand. So I decided to just Royal Supremacy that, because it guarantees that I'm going to get the kill on the Android 13. And then he goes to play Broly, and I just kill it with my Freezer. My Unison's on 4 markers here, so he has to be very wary of my -3. I can just gain Triple Strike whenever I want now. But he's been focusing too much on swinging at my leader. I think arguably he could have done with swinging at my Unison a bit more in the early game, but realistically, just because of the number of Royal Supremacies I had in hand, I think I had 2 that game, and I also had Freezer Charismatic Villains to back it up. It was very tricky for him to ever be able to touch either my Unison or my leader. So this game is going very nicely for me. We're at turn 3, and although he has a very big hand, this is around the time where AOD starts to fall off, because he hasn't had a Turles established very long. He had one last turn, but I managed to kill it, and he's obviously got one this turn. But I'm going to try and kill it next turn if I'm looking to play out next turn, and not just try and kill him with the Triple Strike. And Turles is the main way that deck has any sort of draw power, especially once you're awakened. So although he has 11 cards in hand, and that looks pretty terrifying to my 7, he doesn't have a very big board, and turn 3 is really where this deck starts to fall off. So looking at my hand right now, I'm really just looking for a good opportunity to Kibito Kai, and that would have been an amazing opportunity on that Turles swing. But the thing I'm worried about is he dropped a Senzu Bean on that Turles swing, and that means he's back to 3 energy, and 3 energy is where the AOD deck can drop their Unison with their backside activate main. They can either play the Vegeta AOD Unison, which I can see in his energy right there, or they can play out the Majin Buu Unison. And I don't want to Kibito Kai too early, because I want to have the chance to steal one of those 2 Unisons. Because if I Kibito Kai and he drops the Vegeta Unison and clears my board, and then starts double strike critting me to death, that could potentially be my lose condition. And if I sit back and don't use the Kibito Kai, and I just use my leader activate battle smartly, and I have 2 super combos that I can burn through, as long as I keep using those correctly and getting as much value as I can out of those, then I don't need to use the Kibito Kai until either I'm about to die or he's dropped a Unison down, and then I can use it to the maximum value. So here, he ends up just passing, and that's amazing for me, because as I've just mentioned, I managed to save a Kibito Kai, which is effectively like a baby hatch for this deck. And it also means that I can potentially get value out of it from his Unison. And so that's why a big reason why you don't want to be just kind of like monkey flipping or slamming down secret rares like that, or any sort of valuable card like that, if you just happen to have it. Because sometimes, if you think about it, you can get a bit more value out of it later, and if you play your cards right, then you're able to stall for a little bit longer, and then just squeeze out a bit more value from the card. So here, I'm going back to that 2-turn clock idea. I've charged Berry Blue because, first of all, I already have one on board, so second one doesn't really give me all that much value. But also, the main reason was because I'm scared of the Android 13. And so now my Unison is on 4 markers, so I know I can start pressuring him. He's on 4 life, so I know as soon as I get him down to 3 life, I can swing with Unison and boost it up to a triple strike. So I swung with my Freezer. My Freezer's 15k off Terrified Realization. I swung with Freezer first, so that when I swung with Leader, I can then kill off a field card, and then kill off the Lord Slug that he brought out from the Garlic Jr., because I assumed he'd negate the attack, but also because now I'm not forced to replay a field off of Berry Blue or anything like that, and then I still have the 5k buff on my Freezer if I swing with it first. So I swung with Leader, and I believe he took that life. But then I swing with Unison, and obviously he's going to Garlic Tuning and negate the Unison. And I'm running the Kibito Kai secret rare, not the Majin Buu secret rare, so I'm not going to counter. But I'm fine with it because I'm the control deck, so I'm happy to go longer into the game. He's the one that's actually on the clock, and I've just taken out 2 of his most defensive cards, 2 of his hard negates. So I'm just going to use my Unison uptick, gain some value off of that, draw a card off leader, get my new ruler down, and then I can pass with 3 energy up again. This time passing with 3 energy up is fine because I have cooler counterplay along with Kibito Kai, but also if I really need the hard negate of the King Cold and he taps out or something, I can just drop it. Or if he just has like a big double strike that he's looking to finish me off with, which it arguably is very unlikely, but because I also have the cooler counterplay in hand and I don't have any other proactive plays for 1 energy, I'm very happy to just pass on 3 energy here. And so here he attempts to play his super combo, and I'm going to counterplay that. This is another point that I really want to pause at because this counterplay has a couple of layers to it. So obviously, first thought is he's playing a super combo. It's good to get that off the board because first of all, it's a super combo, so they're highly valuable, and second of all, it has a on-board effect that's going to lock me out of counters for the rest of the game, basically, unless I want to be dropping 2 cards every time. And so getting that super combo off the board is obviously very imperative for me playing a control deck that has a lot of counters. And then also, so I'm using the counter whilst it's still going to be usable, kind of. But also, another big reason that I wanted to call a counterplay this specific card was because now it puts him in a really tricky predicament, because I've just given him the first Android 13 counterplay target of the game, and it's pretty high value because if he doesn't counterplay it, he's also going to be dropping a card from hand because he's on 9 cards in hand currently, I believe. So he'll drop a card from the cooler auto if he doesn't Android 13 counterplay this. But if he does Android 13 counterplay this, that taps him under 3 energy. And 3 energy is the break point to where he can play a Unison. And the Unison is what I've been holding my secret rare for this entire game. So I know that if he taps under 3 energy, unless he has Senzu Bean, he's not going to be able to play his Unison that turn. And that means I can safely Kibito Kai and look to kill him the next turn. And if he does tap under 3 energy, and even if he has beans in hand, because the Kibito Kai locks him out of all battle cards attacks, I can Kibito Kai if he leader swings, I can Kibito Kai on the activate battle of that. But if he battle card swings, I can Kibito Kai on the activate battle of that. And then if he leader swings after that, I can then homicidal clones, which will take myself down to 3 life, which is also relevant for the Sun Gohan Hidden Might that I'm running in the deck. So if I top deck that, that's also a relevant breakpoint for me being at 3 life. So this is all things that I was considering as I went to play this cooler. It's like, he's not going to be able to play his Unison if he counterplays this. And so that puts me at a bunch of different breakpoints, which means that I can then stall out the game a little bit longer and try and kill him next turn. So that was a big reason why I was playing the cooler counterplay there, and there was a lot of different things that I wanted to be considering as I played that. So as you can see, he ends up tapping 1 for the Android 13 because the Android 13 here is insanely strong value. I do still get the counterplay effect of my cooler because it's in the counterplay text. I can still kill the Lord Slug. And then I decide to drop my King Cold negate because I've tapped under 3 energy now, so I'm going to be spending that 2 energy on my secret rare this turn. And the card is basically useless because he'll just counterplay it if I play it. So it's not worth any more than the secret rare would be to play during this turn. And during any future turns, he'll just counterplay it, so there's no point in holding it anymore. The other cards in my hand have a lot more value. So here he's putting back a couple of cards from his drop area. I think he ended up putting back 1 copy of the extra card and 1 of his super combos, and then his super combo from the board dies from my cooler. And here he's starting to realize my Unison is on 5 markers, and so he has to be swinging at it. This is the only flaw to my cooler considerations, which I was just going through, which is that I'm not going to have the activate battle window if he swings to my Unison, and then he can just take all my markers off my Unison, which is annoying. But my solution to that is just by homicidal clonesing. acts as a dual purpose, or a triple purpose really, because I managed to pick up that hidden might off of my life, so it takes me to the breakpoint of 3 life for the hidden might cost reduction. But it also means that I have a blocker, which means I'll guaranteed get the activate battle window if he swings, even at my unison. And that means that I'm going to be able to drop my secret rare. So here he's dropping the Lord Slug off of his leader effect, and I respond with Freezer, because I haven't used Freezer counterplay this turn. And I drop the double strike from my hand, the double strike Kai, because I'm thinking going into his next turn, I'm just going to tap 3 for Golden Freezer and tap 2 for Sun Gohan, so I'm not going to have the 1 energy spare for my double striker. He swings to Unison again, and I just block and then Kibito Kai, and this does give him the option to potentially swing with leader and then Senzu Bean up and get a Unison down. But at this point I'm kind of okay with that. I don't think I can play around that much anymore, and just because of the amount of pressure that I can put onto him next turn, even if he does have a Unison, it's just worth it, because if he has the Vegeta Unison, sure, it clears my board, but then I have 3 double strike swings coming in next turn, along with a triple strike swing and my leader swing. And if he has the Majin Buu Unison, then he's not clearing my board, and I have 2 15k swings as well as a 40k double strike swing, which he's going to have to deal with. So at that point I knew that the Unison wasn't really going to matter, because I was going to try and kill him next turn anyway. So I ended up just using the Kibito Kai, and he ended up not using Senzu Bean anyway. Here he taps 1 for his 3rd Garlic Jr., brings out a super combo. And that was a minor mistake from my part. I didn't even consider that my Golden Freezer and my Son Gohan can both go through barrier. So I should have done what I noticed immediately afterwards was this play here. I just realized I've forgotten about the life here. Let me take that down. Sorry about that. But what I completely forgot about was that Son Gohan can obviously kill his Babidi, which is reducing all of his AODs by 1. So I end up just tapping 2 for that, and this locks him out of any other negates that he might have in his hand for the turn, unless he has a Senzu Bean. But I should have obviously done that earlier before swinging with the Unison, because then it would have meant he would have had to tap out for his Garlic Jr. negate, and that would have meant it was his only negate for the entire turn. Obviously my hand at the moment is pretty stacked. I've managed to draw a 3rd super combo off my first one, and I have a huge board. So I'm just swinging to leader with my Freezer, because I want to take him down to 2 life if I can, so that he is in range of my many double strike swings here. So I go to 25 because of Terrified Realization being on the board. My Freezer is gaining an extra 5k, and he does have the Senzu Bean, so he's able to bean back up, and that will give him access to his potentially his 4th Garlic Jr. negate. And he uses the super combo off his board, and that's fine. That takes him to 35. The annoying part about that is it takes him to a 20k base leader, so my Freezer on board is a bit more useless now because it's only 15k. So I just end up going to swing with leader, sack off a new ruler to trigger anticipated onslaught to drop off one of his Garlic Juniors. Then draw 1, drop 1 off of the new ruler. Obviously I don't want to drop my 3 cards that I've been keeping in hand, the 2 super combos and the Golden Freezer, so I just drop the card I drew. And then I push a super combo on the leader swing, because I really want this attack to go through to force him down to 2 life, because I have so many double strike swings. As soon as he's on 2 life here, he's guaranteed to die. So I go very excessively in super combo on my leader swing, but I really need to force him down to 2 life. And I swing with Gohan, he signals no negates, and so I've just combo a bunch of cards in with the Gohan swing. The Freezer and Berry Blue on my board are completely useless at the moment, obviously, because neither of them are going to be able to hit his leader. And I drop a super combo, and he says GG, so he knew that it was over there, because even if he managed to out-combo that swing, I have a 40k double strike swing, and then what he didn't know was I also had 2 more double strike swings in hand with the Golden Freezer effect. So that was game 1. I hope that you guys followed along with all of my different trains of thoughts there, and I hope you guys enjoyed the game as well. We'll get straight into game 2 here. I'm going to do the whole match in just one take, like I've been doing with some of the more recent Rising Phoenix best of 3s. So this time he does have a slight advantage because he's going to be able to go first, and that lets him set up his Babidi before I'm able to set up my field cards, and that means that he's going to be going into his turn 2 without me having awakened yet, which will also mean that I don't have things like Cooler or Freezer or Royal Supremacy live yet. So he'll have a lot more advantage during this game, I think, just based off of the fact that he can go first this game, because I won the die roll for this best of 3. I got to go first for the first game. But my hand right now is looking really, really insane, honestly. I think I kept a new ruler, the secret rare, and a Royal Supremacy, and then I drew the second Royal Supremacy, a Unison, and a Cooler. And so I charge one of the new rulers and play one of the new rulers and just start drawing. This is definitely a matchup where you can take life early on, because you want to be in a position to counterplay their turn 2 or turn 3 plays, and to do that you're going to have to be able to awaken on turn 2 so that you can get that extra energy. Also, something else to note is that my opponent did not manage to see the Babidi that he needed on turn 1, which sets him down, or sets him behind quite a bit, although arguably not as much as it would do in other matchups, because obviously for King Cold the deck is solely going to be playing a field card on turn 1 and doing nothing else. It's really not the most proactive deck, especially on turn 1 and turn 2. So to be fair, it's definitely bad that he didn't see the Babidi early on. It's gonna hinder him quite a bit, but there are definitely worse matchups to not see the Babidi turn 1, and I don't think that it was massively impactful for him. Although it does mean that he doesn't go into next turn leaving an energy open, which means that he won't necessarily be able to use the Garlic Jr. negate or the Android 13 negate. But here he manages to tap 1 for Turles, which is kind of the ideal turn 2 play. He's going to start giving him a lot of value in those early game swings for 15k, and also searching the top 5 every time he swings is really strong. And the fact that he has barrier makes him a little tricky to kill, but because he's going to be in rest mode a lot of the time after attacking, I can attack into him and my leader will go up to 25k if he doesn't negate. So something to take note of here is this is going to be my main time to kill this Turles, because he's tapped out right now, so he can't Garlic Jr. negate, and I don't want to be attacking if he has the potential to Garlic Jr. negate, because it gives him such a wide board, and I don't really get the chance to interact with it, because Cooler counterplay is only reduced during his turn, so I can't counterplay the Garlic Jr. during my turn. And so I really need to be playing around Garlic Jr., so this is going to be my main time to kill Turles. And I think my opponent realized that, and that's why he was comboing out of the Unison swing. But what he probably didn't realize was that this is the turn where I kind of go off, because I'm at 4 life. I'm able to gain a bunch of value off of my field cards, off of being able to play Berry Blue and play out my Unison, and then Awakening, and I'll eventually be able to swing 25k into his Turles, which he definitely won't be able to combo out of, unless he wants to burn a super combo this early into the game, which would be absolutely fine by me. So very simple turn 2, just play the Unison, +1 the Unison, anticipated onslaught into Berry Blue to get some searches going, and then swing with leader and sack off new ruler to draw 1, drop 1. And this is then going to allow me to use the activate main on Berry Blue to revive new ruler, give me my backside draw from leader auto, and give me an extra top 3 search, which is always nice. And this also sets me up nicely for Royal Supremacy, which I do happen to have 2 of in hand, and I then hit the 3rd copy off the top, so I immediately want to take that, because I have 3 field cards now, the anticipated onslaught, new ruler, and the King Cold's Dynasty. And this play also leaves me very nicely into his next turn, because I have 1 energy open, which allows me to Cooler counterplay as well as Freezer counterplay, and because most of his cards are going to be costing 3 or less, Cooler counterplay is going to be very strong in this matchup, and I'm almost guaranteed to be able to play it before playing Freezer Charismatic Villain. And that's often an issue with Cooler counterplay, is that sometimes you're forced to Freezer Charismatic something that you wouldn't be able to Cooler, and then Frieza locks you out of Cooler's counterplay skill for the rest of the turn. But against a very low to the ground aggro deck like this, a lot of their plays are going to be very, very cheap. And so I'm just going to be able to counterplay everything that they do, basically. So here, it doesn't seem like he saw the second copy of his extra card like he did last game. And that means that he's forced to tap 2 for Broly. And so here, a lot of things are happening. I'm going to pause it again real quick, just to break it down a little bit. So he's tapping 2 for Broly. He clearly needs... So, first of all, obviously, I don't want him popping Berry Blue. Berry Blue is going to give me a lot of advantage if the game goes long, which it probably will. So I don't want that happening. He also had to tap 2 for Broly, and that means that if he taps 1 more for Android 13, as you can see he did, although it gives him a lot of value on the Android 13 counterplay, it does mean that he's then again tapped out going into my turn, which means that I know that he's not going to have Garlic Jr. negate, he's not going to have Android 13 counterplay free to play, so he's not going to be able to play any of those. And so those are some of the thought processes going into me playing that Cooler, is again, if he has the Android 13, is it still worth it for me? And the answer is definitely yes. Also, because he's playing that Broly for 2 energy, he likely needs to find a specific card. In this situation, it would probably be the the Agents of Destruction extra card. And so he's probably going to be digging for a card like that off of the top 3 search. And when he goes to play the Android 13, I can then resolve Frieza counterplay in my hand because my Unison is on 3 markers here. And that will clear out his board except for the Babidi. And even though I discard a card, I can just discard the King Cold negate, which is useless in this matchup. And then I'll clear his board, establish myself a 10k body, which can be boosted to 15k. And I get to effectively deny him of his 3 energy, which he would otherwise have been making use of, and deny him of his Broly effects, which is a really, really strong play going to, or basically stopping his entire turn 3, which is one of the stronger turns of AOD. So it's pretty unlucky on his part that he wasn't able to awaken that turn, and because he obviously didn't see the Babidi turn 1, it's kind of all falling apart for him here. Now we're already getting into the late game, and he's barely even got off the ground. My Unison is already on 3 markers, so if I have another copy of the Unison in hand, I can play or place another copy underneath him, and then that will give me the 4 markers I need for the Triple Strike skill, because I need to -3, and I also need the Unison to stay alive. But because I don't have the other Unison in hand, I just end up using its +1 to play out a new, I think it was a new ruler I played, or no, it would have been Terrified Realization. Draw some cards off that, draw some cards off of my leader, and then I also play Unstoppable Invasion, I believe from Berry Blue's effect. I was considering taking the life here, and I think in hindsight I definitely should have, because I have the Gohan Supreme or Gohan Hidden Might in my hand, which I wanted to potentially use for this turn. But I ended up not taking the life. I think that was another minor misplay on my part. And then I end up swinging to his leader with my leader. My leader's 25k Double Strike. I decide not to use the Activate Battle here, simply because I was thinking if I go into his next turn, I want to make sure that I have a lot of field cards so that Terrified Realization is easily made live during my next turn, because I'm thinking I'll probably pass turn, I'll probably try and apply a bit of pressure here so that he's forced to awaken during my turn, and then let him do his stuff, negate a bunch of attacks with my 3 Royal Supremacies, and then going into my next turn I'll try and kill him, and that's when I want Terrified Realization to be live. And so I wanted to kind of save my leader effect for his turn, which would have still kept Terrified Realization live, which would have been very useful for me. So here I'm applying a bunch of pressure, and I also have the Bardock Overwhelm in hand, but I realized that I didn't have very many cards in drop area. I think at the moment I have 3, so I figured I'm going to try and get some more in drop area, because he's gone down to 2 life, and now I'm not only thinking, can I force his awaken this turn, I'm also thinking, can I try and kill him this turn, because Bardock Overwhelm is a bit silly when it comes to people being on 2 life. So I tap 1 for Paragus of Sacrifice, and that'll trigger new ruler, which gets 2 more cards in the drop area and lets me draw through a few more cards in my deck. Something that I messed up on here was I was reading Paragus the Sacrifice. So I've done a fair bit of research into this deck before building it. I looked at a bunch of builds online, and everywhere that I saw, people were saying that Berry Blue gets buffed up by 5k from Terrified Realization. But I checked on the cards, and maybe I missed it, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure Berry Blue is a Freezer army. Terrified Realization only buffs Freezer clans. So I went to swing with Berry Blue after checking Paragus, and I checked Paragus and I saw, oh, Freezer's army, this one says Freezer's clan, oh, I guess Berry Blue's a Freezer's clan. So I go to swing with Berry Blue, and then I hover over Berry Blue after attacking and see it's also a Freezer's army and not a Freezer's clan. So by the looks of things, neither of them get buffed up by Terrified Realization. So in hindsight, I should have swung with the Paragus because it's a 5k rather than a 4k. But I didn't I didn't realize that neither of them get buffed up. Honestly, I thought that they both got buffed up, but maybe I misread it. Maybe just the other people that I've watched have been incorrect with that. But I go to swing with Berry Blue anyway because I need 1 more card in my drop area, and I want to apply a bit more pressure, potentially take it down to 1 life, or at least Forces Awaken before dropping the Fighting Against Fate. So I just double super combo on the Berry Blue here, and that takes it to 24k in total, because as I said, it doesn't get buffed up by Terrified Realization, which is a shame. Here he does a double super combo, and I found this a little bit weird because that puts him at 30k, and because we weren't in voice chat for this, most of my Rising Phoenix games we've been a voice chat, so I was manually, it was just like a normal untap game, I was telling him, oh, this is 24k, so I was telling him the exact numbers that I was swinging with. So he over comboed there, and I assumed that it was because he thought Terrified Realization was buffing it, but I specifically said it's 24k, it's not getting buffed. So I don't know why he over comboed there. Maybe his hand was just full of unisons and extra cards. But I go to swing with Fighting Against Fate, and he just says GG. He just left it there, I think. So I'm honestly, I think I'm a little bit confused why he just called it there. Maybe he just had enough of the game, honestly, because looking at the current board state, yes, I have Fighting Against Fate, obviously, but on my first swing of Fighting Against Fate, he can awaken, and then that'll give him the energy to play down the Garlic Junior negate, and it also gives him some more cards in hand. So that would have stopped the second Fighting Against Fate swing, assuming he takes the first one. And then all I have to swing with left is a Paragus, and then I only have, what, 15k power in hand, so I could only take him to 20k power. Although I guess I could tap 1 to combo a 10k, so I could take it to 30k power. But even still, I think that he definitely had some outs that he could have drawn into, and so potentially he could have kept playing, but maybe he just had enough of me dropping Fighting Against Fate on him, which is fair enough. The card is a little bit bonkers. But shoutouts to my opponent. I didn't manage to get the channel that he was from because we weren't in voice chat, so I didn't get a chance to ask him. But I'll try and send him a Discord message or something like that so that I can put the link in the description. Big shoutouts to him. He played it pretty well, and it was a good game, or a good best of 3 match, whatever. But I hope that you guys watching enjoyed the video. Hopefully I can bring you guys some more content from now on. We're almost at the end of the Rising Phoenix Odyssey tournament. I think we're at like semi-finals now or something like that. I know the winners bracket is all done. We're just waiting on the losers bracket, which I'm slowly clawing my way back from. But I hope you guys stay tuned for the rest of the tournament, and if you haven't already, then check out the other videos that I've been doing on it. It's been really enjoyable. And yeah, basically, hope you guys enjoyed the gameplay. Hope you guys learned something, because I feel like I had quite a good knowledge of the Agents of Destruction deck to bring to you guys a detailed kind of a detailed map of the matchup. I really wanted to drive home to you guys the importance of playing around specific cards as well as being able to play out your own deck's game plan. And I think that in an AOD matchup specifically, that's a really, really important aspect of card games to understand. So I hope you guys took away something from this. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you in the next one.